This is nice, right? And when you use it as like just a pencil, it gets very dark and very vibrant. That's great. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Is It Worth It, where I go around the world and the internet looking for art supplies to make your job just a little bit easier, or for you to enjoy the craft just this much more. Now today we are going to the Dollar Tree. Gonna try and see if these craft utensils, these art utensils, are actually worth it. Now I know it's only $1.25, but you know what? Sometimes you just need to know, is this $1 worth, right? Is this pretty crappy, or is this actually going to be pretty good? And so today I'm really interested in this because they are watercolor pencils, and I'm always interested in watercolor pencils because it's like two utensils in one. So I'm very excited to try these out. But as we all know, they're from the Dollar Tree, so let's go check them out and see if they're any good. Alright, so as you can see, it is really simply wrapped, right? It's just in some easy plastic, and it just tells you got 6 watercolor pencils. And it says that it's artist quality. I never understood that. What does it mean, artist quality? So, yeah. So let's go ahead and open it up. Oh, that was easy. Okay, so I mean, it feels like a regular pencil. Just it's lightweight, not really much to it. You know, I do like it's slick, right? Not necessarily that it's gonna like slip out of your hands or anything like that, but it's very nice to the touch. It's a very smooth surface, and so that's very nice. I do like that at regular length. It's pretty long, so it even fits in my big hands. But it is light. Like, it feels light. Like, there's barely any weight to this. The wood is pretty porous, so I'm assuming that, you know, it's easy to take off. And I'm worried about the lead being affected by that because it is so soft of wood. But the pencil itself looks pretty good. Let's grab some paper. All right, just regular old Bristol board smooth for right now. I'm gonna try these out. Wow, okay. That lays down real nice. Wow. All right, let's choke up on the point. I mean, that's some really nice, vibrant colors right there. You know, it's laying down a lot of that watercolor graphite. Right, it holds its tip, so it's still just like a regular pencil. And then, you know, the best part about it is, because it is a color pencil, right, you have a light touch, right? You can get this nice even gradation, and then just pressing a little bit harder, right, and it gets darker as you just keep going, right? So that's nice. I mean, that's really nice. And one thing that I'm really surprised at is that I put down all of this and that tip is still there, right? Like, normally you get some watercolor pencils and it's so soft and it puts down so much of the lead, and then you barely have anything here, right? This is nice, right? And when you use it as like just a pencil, it gets very dark and very vibrant. That's great. Let's see if that was just red. Let's try the other pencil and see what happens. I mean, light, right? To push down. Right, that's nice. That's really nice. And it doesn't smudge, right? Like there's not really any smudging that's happening, so that's nice. And then, nope, okay. The blue feels a little bit different. The blue feels as though it's a lot harder. Like the like it's a harder graphite, like it's a harder lead, it just feels less soft. It's not as soft as the red one was, but still, right, holds its point. Nice vibrant color. Okay. Let's see about this green. Right, just puts it down really nice. So you gotta admit, quality of this is pretty good. Now with the green one though, like with the red and the blue, it seems to keep, like, it's very consistent, but with the green, it's very, very dependent on how much pressure you're putting on, because when I'm using the lines with the blue and the red one, when I go across, it doesn't fade, but with the green one, it kind of does. And I mean, it's just something that you got to be aware of. This one's also a little bit harder than the red, but softer than the blue one. Let's try the yellow. Yellow might be hard to see. It's very soft. The yellow's very soft as far as the lead goes. Very, very soft. You can still get very nice thin lines, but the yellow is definitely harder to see. So you can get some nice subtle gradations with those if you wanted to. Purple. Ooh, purple is nice and vibrant. I like that. Also soft. Very, very soft color. I think this one, because it's a little soft, it also kind of fades towards the end, but it's okay. Oh, black. Okay, so this one's black. Black is super soft. Like, it's just laying down all kinds of ink, or not ink, but all kinds of the watercolor. Like, it's just, so black is by far the softest of the leads that come in that 6-pack, but it's very nice. Like, these color pencils are great, and they're very nice. So I'm gonna use a watercolor brush. Put some water in there quick. Okay, now I know that this is not watercolor paper. We have some, but we're gonna test it out and see what happens here. See just how much. So you have to work it, right, to try and get that, to get the lead to be a watercolor. Like, it does do watercolor, like, see, you can do that, but if you see, I'm gonna try and move it out of the way, but do you see that? Like, right there, you can still see the pencil. Okay, so with other watercolor brushes that we've used, the minute the water hits the color, everything just turns into watercolor. With these, while it does have that watercolor, right, it does turn into watercolor, as you can see here. The problem is that, once again, so even if we're gonna try and move some of this out of the way so you can see it, but you see those lines? So the lines are still there, and that's kind of a problem. Like, that should not happen, right? So if you come in with watercolor, or if you come in with water, the lines should obliterate, right? And that's the whole idea, is that you can lay down a whole lot of color and then kind of fade it out. But if it keeps, it is consistent though, right? But if So with the yellow, with the yellow, it's not that much because it's barely on the paper in the first place. So if you're looking to do yellow, then you're good. But all the other colors still leave those lines behind. So we're gonna try and do it with black. Yeah, doesn't change, right? Like you can smear it out so you can get the watercolor, but if you're trying to put down the pencil and then come in with the brush afterwards, which is what the watercolor pencils would be, it still leaves the line. And so it's kind of a big deal. But I guess if you did it really, really light, let's see if we did this light one up here. Yeah, so the lighter you would go, so if you were trying to get an intense color, the lines would still stick around. But if it's just a light color, then it blends just fine. All right, now I do have some watercolor paper. We can try that. Try this watercolor real quick. We're just gonna throw some light lines down. All right, try and do some. But it's really kind of hard to get really light lines. It seems like with the watercolor stuff, you get little lines. So we're gonna try and see what happens there. If it's actually the paper that was not allowing the pencil to actually turn into fully watercolor, or if it's actually the watercolor. I think it's just the pencil. I mean, if you do really, really light lines, you can really push that out. So I guess that's a good thing then, right? You don't need, you just kind of come in and grab the pencil all the way from the back and kind of just throw some light lines down, because that way you can actually, nope. It seems like those lines are always going to be there. See? So that's something to keep in mind. We're going to try a different one. Maybe try and do that really light. Could have been just a black. So right now I'm really, really trying to go as light as possible, barely holding on to the pencil, just to see if we can get those lines not there. So it seems, but see, you see how it's like super light that is? So with other color pencils, you can actually lay down a really thick layer of the pencil and then come over it with the watercolor, and it'll actually just completely dissipate. So I guess that's the trade-off. So yeah, those lines are always going to be there. All right, so we just got done reviewing the Dollar Tree watercolor pencils, and I mean, for $1, they're actually not bad, right? For $1, you can't complain with those. They'll do the trick. The thing is that if you're trying to use them professionally, you're gonna have to go really, 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 really light, and then the intensity of the actual color pencil doesn't work, right? Because if you try and get something a little darker or a little bit more vibrant, then you can't get rid of the lines. So unless you're very, very careful, absolutely meticulous about trying to blend that ahead of time, the problem will always be that there are these lines that will go through your watercolor. And that's not cool, right? And if you do it really, really lightly, you're not gonna get the intensity of the color. So that's kind of your trade-off for getting the watercolor pencils at the Dollar Tree. But if you were gonna use them for color pencils, they're super vibrant, they're super soft, so it goes on the paper really, really nicely. And it does hold the tip very well, so you won't just kind of put down 2 marks and then have to sharpen it, and 2 marks and then sharpen it, it actually holds for a while. So that's really good for that, like if you're going to use it for the colored pencil aspect. But then if you try and put watercolor over it, you might actually be a little disappointed. So you got to keep that in mind. If you're trying to do really light washes with really light colored pencils on it, then fine, these will work great. But if you're trying to get some type of intensity out of the color, these are not the watercolor pencils for you. All right, well, that wraps up today's episode. I hope that you learned something or gleaned some type of information that will be useful to you in the future. If you have any suggestions for art supplies that we should review, please go ahead and drop it in the comments below and I will add it to the list. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and bell notification so that you are notified as soon as I upload new content. I want to thank you guys so very much, and I will see you at the next episode.